So yesterday I tried home anodizing for the first time. I took one of these little reject parts that I had, anodized it red. It turned out really good. This is where some of the anodizing didn't stick because it was lasered before. Like I said, this was just a test part. Came out kind of dark matte looking, and then I threw it in my tumbler and it polished up really nice. Actually looks really good. So I figured today I would make a video on doing a piece black. So I've got another one of these laying right here. So we'll go ahead and make a quick video and show how this is done. I'll start and stop it while there's times that are where it takes additional time. So here's the part I have now. I've already cleaned it just basically with degreaser. So once it's clean with degreaser, let it sit. I just used mineral spirits and then some isopropyl alcohol to clean it, but you could use something as simple as like simple green. Here I have the dye. Actually, you can use like RIT dye or normal anodizing dye. On Amazon, you can find like black anodizing dye for like 20 or 30 bucks and red anodizing dye for, I don't know, 15 or 20 bucks. Just mix it accordingly. This solution is a mix of lye or sodium hydroxide and distilled water. I think you put about 3 tablespoons of lye per gallon of distilled water. I've got everything just stored in distilled water jugs down there. This is a combination of 50-50 sulfuric acid or battery acid and distilled water. And then this is just distilled water. Over here I have a hot plate. This will be used for a couple things. One, I need to heat the dye up. So typically you want to have the dye around 120 degrees. So I'm going to set it in here and let it warm up. Once that gets to temperature, we'll pull it out. I'll just set so I got a meat thermometer in there. I'll run it up to 130 degrees or so because then I'll have to pull it out. This is what I'll be using to do the actual anodizing. So I'll hook my part, hang it, and then I have 2 lead sheets. I got a lead sheet on each side just so you get better conductivity between the two. A little power supply you can buy off of Amazon. I had it for electronics projects. There's calculators out there that tell you how much voltage and amperage to put through a part depending on its surface footage or surface area. So you can just run the math on those calculators. I'm going to be putting about 3 amps through it at 17 volts because 17 volts is about all I can get out of this power supply at 3 amps and the part that's in there. People use car chargers at like 2 amps. They just have to cook them a bit longer. Typically you run a higher voltage. This is not type 3 hard coat. This would be considered more of a type 2 anodizing. But yeah, so once that comes up to temperature, we'll start doing this. And then I'll start the thing again. All right, so the dye's up to temp. It's at 125 degrees. We're going to let it cook in there just a little bit longer. I don't want it to get too hot, but we're going to go ahead and start the other stuff because it's going to take a little bit. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to hook this part. This is aluminum wire. Understand it will anodize because it's aluminum as well. You can use like titanium wire. So what we're doing here is dipping it in the lye solution. So the purpose of the lye solution is really just to etch it, right? It's going to eat a small amount of the surface area off and basically allow everything to stick. Let me get this over here. You'll see, maybe, hopefully I don't drop my phone in there, you'll see probably the bubbles forming off of it. That's what you want. Now the trick with this is as those bubbles form, they will also stick to the part, which keeps more solution from touching the part. Which you don't want. So, shake it here while it's hooked. You probably need to leave it in here for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm looking at my watch, 17:06. So anyway, we're just letting that anodize. I'm going to take my watch here off just because I've got so much stuff over here that's chemical and we'll eat it. We're just shaking, and really the whole purpose of shaking this is to get the bubbles off of the surface that are forming. Understand, so you've got a lye mixture that's expelling gases. This, when you turn it on, the sulfuric acid bath is going to also expel gases. So you want to wear a mask and ideally do this in a well-ventilated area. You don't want to breathe this in, and also the gases are not going to be good for your eyes or anything. So give me 1 second. I'm actually going to turn the fan on here. All right, so I'm back. I just turned the fan on just because of the gases and nasty stuff that's happening here. The dye is up to 136 degrees, so we're going to pull that out. Second here, to help cramp space. And then we're going to let this water continue to boil because we're going to use that to seal in the color when we're all said and done. So the dye's out, it's just sitting here. Again, continue to shake this so that the bubbles come off of the part and more solution can etch the part. So maybe another minute or two. I'll put this on pause for a second. Just there's no sense in watching me shake this thing in the lye solution, but 3-4 minutes is about enough. Okay, so this has been in the etching solution for about 4 minutes now. I've been shaking it just to keep those little micro bubbles from forming on the surface. Once those bubbles form and sit on the surface, no more solution can get to it. So we're gonna pull it out. You can see a little change of color here. We're just gonna rinse it off quick and put it into the anodizing solution. And here I've got my positive. It's going to drop down to about 17 volts. We got bubbles coming off. All right, so you can see everything bubbling in there, which is what we want. Hopefully we got a good connection to the actual part. And we're going to leave it in there for about 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to show you this here. I don't know how well you can see it, but hopefully you can see it. But you want to see little bubbles coming off the part. That shows it's got a good connection. Where am I at here? There you go. Shows it's got a good connection actually being anodized. All right, so it's been in about 6 minutes. You start to see the bubbles rolling. We're going to leave it in for another 10 or 12. All right, so this has been anodizing for about 18 minutes. I can see the voltage is starting to drop, which tells me that it's probably anodized. So we're going to turn this off. Disconnect it. Rinse this. So now we're just going to rinse this in distilled water. Shake all the distilled water off as best as you can. And we're just going to set it in the dye. So in the dye it goes. We'll leave it in there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. I might shake it a little bit here at first just to get any additional water off of it. And get that in the dye mixed up. And then we'll let that sit there. So we'll come back in about 3 or 4 minutes. Once we come back in 4 minutes, we're going to pull it out of here and just dip it into the boiling water. So I pulled the dye out of here. It's at like 125 degrees. This is now just boiling water. We're going to use that to seal in the dye. So etch it, anodize it, rinse it into the dye. Once it's in the dye for whatever period of time that you want for the color you want, pull it out, put it in the boiling water. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, it's been here about 3 minutes. This dye is extra dark right now, so I think that's going to be plenty. We'll pull it out here quick and kind of see what it looks like. Actually looks really good. Let's do this, just go ahead in my hand, see if anything weird happens here. And we're going to pull it out of here and go straight into the boiling water. And that's just going to help seal it. So, right into the boiling water. And we'll just let it boil for a couple minutes. And then we'll pull it out of there and wipe it off. All right, so I've cleaned everything else up here. And like I said, I'm just storing everything in the distilled water containers. So that, the dye, sulfuric acid bath. So it's been boiling for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll pull the part out, turn this off. See what it looks like. Shake the water off. you can kind of see, might be a couple different colors just from where the dye sits and everything. But I'll throw that in the tumbler, tumble it, came out like a matte finish. The other one did the same thing, but throw it in the tumbler and these, water spots or extra dye spots will typically go away. But you can kind of see what that one looks like. And like I said, not too shabby for a little home setup. Like I said, I'll throw it in the tumbler, let it polish, and show you what it looks like.